So number 4 of the pathways, one of my favorites, connecting with nature. This is one of the most natural pathways that we walk. We have been doing this ever since human beings have been on the earth. And so co-regulating with the earth's natural rhythms and remembering that you're one with nature. It's all pretty basic, but it's something our ancestors have been benefiting from since the beginning of time. Since modern times, we've lost a little bit of this connection, and this connection can influence our body, which Luke will talk a little bit about. It can influence our mind, and also what some people call our spirit. This is not about doing anything extra. It's actually returning back to our basic human nature and honoring the earth's natural rhythms.
Yeah, and one really easy way to do this is just by getting your bare feet on the earth. Some people call this grounding or earthing, but really it's just being a human being on the earth with bare feet, which is the most natural thing in the world. But interestingly, there's scientific evidence that supports grounding, that it can reduce inflammation, it can actually reduce blood viscosity, which can decrease your risk of cardiovascular events. It can help improve sleep, reduce stress. If you live in a city, they sell earthing mats, which is an alternative. I would say if you can find your way to a park, get your shoes off, and that's the best way to do it. Another thing that's sort of got a catchphrase they call forest bathing, but simply just getting yourself out into the woods, breathing in all that good oxygen from the leaves and from the soil, looking through the trees, like receiving sunlight through the trees is like so natural and so calming. Gives us creativity and clarity of mind, and it can even improve immune function, because when we're in nature, it's immediately calming, right? We've all experienced this, of just like going into a forest and it's just this feeling of like, this like downshift. And what this does in the body is it lowers stress hormones, which allows for greater microbiome diversity, which is interesting, which this will directly correlate to increased serotonin production, better nutrient absorption, and better immune function. Another really easy and natural thing you can do for your body is just getting natural sunlight, daylight on the skin, in the eyes. First thing in the morning, get your eyes on the sky, open a window if you live in a city, and just look up and receive natural sunlight. And this helps to balance and recalibrate your circadian rhythms, which will help you get on a better sleep schedule. And actually, interestingly, when you receive daylight in the morning, your brain starts to produce melatonin for that night's sleep. So again, it will help you with your sleep schedule, boosting serotonin, and of course, receiving sunlight allows your body to produce its own vitamin D, which correlates to immunity and hormone regulation and mood.
Finally, making non-human friends and this concept of reciprocity. There's an amazing quote, which I don't actually know the origin point, but it is generated from a North American indigenous human that said, "You're going to be awfully lonely if the only other person you talk to are human people." So that means this sense of connection extends beyond just human relationships. And so we encourage making non-human friends. The first one could be simply finding a place that you go to, almost like a daily practice, repeatedly and consistently. When I used to live by the ocean, I would go every single morning, sometimes 3 times a week, and the ocean would receive me no matter whether I was joyful or in grief or feeling challenged. And just that consistency allowed me to show up as I was. This concept related to making non-human friends is shifting out of egocentrism, which is centering the ego as the current way the world is making meaning, and shifting that to ecocentrism is allowing the greater story that is told on the earth to be told by all of nature instead of just the human story. So what this insinuates is that there might be a greater story being told than what the story is that we tell ourselves inside, which also encourages a lot of what we talk about listening. So finding a tree that you can go and you can build a relationship with, that you can go and speak to and admire, and some days when you're not feeling so well, you can go and sit underneath it and receive from it.
Yeah, even just keeping houseplants, like having plants in your home and practicing close observation of these plants for their teachings. These plants have things to teach us. So by observing the mechanics of the natural world, the botanical world, we get to learn from them, because animals and plants, they are subject to the same natural laws that we are, but they're not obstructed by mind. And so they become teachers. So by observing nature, like watching the honeybee gather pollen, or watching a tree drop its leaves, watching the seasons change, watching the moon phases change, the direct observation consistently of these natural processes, very human, and it helps us to see things as they are and helps us to see ourselves as we are. Like Alexa said, it helps us to track our own changes. And so the teachings that we receive from the natural world, we then get to apply to our life and apply to our relationships.
Yeah, so when we work with these amazing plant and animal teachers and learn from them, we learn to expand our sense of reality and be more inclusive of the multiplicity of life, of nature, of spirit. We learn how to fly like an eagle. That concept is inviting us into receiving wisdom through metaphor, not through literal language form. In any moment we shift ourselves out of the language center of the brain and shift into what we call the imaginal center, we're allowing ourselves to lean into the mystery and actually create a flexibility of how we relate to other humans.